So my name is Asia, like the Steely Dan album, and I am the CEO, co-founder, and software architect at Civil, which is a tech startup here in Portland, right on the other side of the river. But before I was all of those things, I was a comment moderator. So that meant I was in there cleaning up the terrible comments that people were leaving, in this case on a big video site. So, like most moderators, I quickly realized that the software that we were using was terrible. It just couldn't keep up. It's like digging through quicksand. You can never get to the end of it, right? And so I started to think, how can you improve this process? How can I make my life easier as a moderator? And so I taught myself to code, and I started experimenting with a lot of different things like language processing algorithms. Anybody? Yeah, NLP? Woo! So I started doing a lot of that kind of stuff, wrote some Bayesian classifiers, as you do, and quickly found that they're just nowhere near accurate enough. And I had a really crucial conversation with the VP of Trust and Safety at Twitter, where she told me, we have a lot of PhDs, we have a lot of resources, and we have not been able to figure out how to machine moderate, user-generated content, essentially. So she said, maybe you should try to find another way. And so I went back and I thought about it, and I realized, a lot of the problem is when people are posting, the spam and the harassment and the abuse, they don't see themselves as bad actors. Most of the time, this is not a different species of person that's living in somebody's basement, like sort of trolling all day. Usually it's just a normal person having a bad day. But they believe that their actions are justified. Everybody, no matter what they're doing, this is true for everybody in this room, no matter what you do, you believe that your action in the moment is justified. And so what we needed to do as software developers, which I increasingly was find a way to get in there and interrupt that process. And so I'd like to show you real quick what we built with that in mind. So this is going to be super fun. This is in our development environment, so this is just sort of a lot of demo data that we have here. But essentially what we've done is gone and built a third-party JavaScript commenting plugin, which means that we have a couple of lines of JavaScript code that you can paste into any website anywhere, and it sucks in our app, and just like Discuss or Livefire or Facebook comments, you get a full commenting app that lets you post comments, reply to comments, like things, what you would expect below a blog post or a video online. But we do something a little different. We change the submission process. So when somebody submits a comment, instead of just blindly publishing whatever it is they write and then trying to let counting on the site owner to clean up afterwards, we add a peer review process. So we get the community involved. You cannot submit your comment without first rating the quality and the civility of other people's comments. So in this case, my co-founder, Krista, has written COMMENT, find out what it means to me. Is this a good comment? Absolutely. Is it civil? Yes. Hey, okay, Internet Explorer brings up Internet of Horror, really makes you think. Let's see, I guess it's civil, but I get to decide. And then I write my own comment. Oh, and it's editable. So, maybe if I'd written something terrible, I could change my mind. And we see this happen every day. So is it civil? Yeah, it's civil. So now, thank you for your comment. I see it posted right away. I know there's going to be questions about that. You don't see a delay while other people are rating your comments. You get that instant gratification because it's pre-approved. But on the back end, what the admin gets is a set of qualitative data that comes in with every single comment that lets our system automatically make publication decisions based on human data. So instead of relying on machines to try to understand what people are writing, we're relying on people to understand what people are writing, and then we're using the machines to keep them honest. So in the case that, in cases where users agree, we show every comment to multiple people. If everybody agrees and we think we can trust them, then it gets approved automatically. If there's disagreement, so maybe we can find something that's, okay, so somebody says, somebody's making a bit of an off-color joke here. So the first person who came in rejected it, the second person approved it, the third person approved it, the second person rejected it. Okay, so so that one gets published. And then, but let's see. So anyhow, so you see like some comments go into a kind of a consensus process where more people are brought in. Some are just if there's agreement from the start, then we trust that. Anyhow, it gets really, really deep from here, but essentially what this does is it really turns the tables on comment moderation, and it makes the community essentially self-moderating. So the site owner doesn't have to be in there 24 hours a day with their finger on the button, trying to keep things clean. So I don't know how much time I have left, but if anybody has any questions. Yes, sir.
Have you made it so it's a plugin in WordPress and Drupal?
It is actually, somebody made it into a Drupal plugin for us, so that's available. We haven't made it into a WordPress plugin yet. Currently, it's just the raw JavaScript that you can pull in. It's a paid service, so right now it requires a subscription, but we're going to be working towards a free product that anybody can install on their blog.
Is it a drop-in replacement for Discuss? And if so, can you import existing Discuss comments?
It is a drop-in replacement for Discuss. We started out with allowing people to import comments and quickly found that that data is so bad that we don't really want it in our system. And so instead we recommend that site owners just put in a quick date-based conditional so that older articles or blog posts stay on Discuss, you just close the threads, and then you start fresh with clean civil comment data. Otherwise you're muddying the waters with a lot of unmoderated content. Yes?
So what if I think I have this super active discussion group and really I don't?
So what if you think you have a super active discussion group and really you don't? So you're asking.
So you're relying on all this peer review, but let's say people are like, hey.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a good service then for my need?
You know, we like volume. The more comments that you get, the more moderation you get. So it's definitely something that's been designed for really massive scale. We like to see, with our current product, we like to see at least 100 comments a day for the thing to really get moving. We do have the pre-approval algorithm. That is the one last place where I use NLP, language processing, to make an initial publication decision while it's awaiting the final verdict. So people will get their comments published right away if they're not really horrible. But yeah, it definitely prefers larger sites. What's great is that what we've seen with our first couple customers is that we're actually seeing an increase in the total number of comments that people are posting, even though there's this additional hurdle. It's actually getting people more engaged in the site, and maybe because it isn't like a toxic garbage fire below the article, right?
So, are you getting any more data back from the customer, or at least allowed to get back, of what this is actually doing long term? I'm assuming long term hasn't happened yet, but as it inevitably does, as we get more and more customers and we see what this has done as opposed to other things, are you looking to do any sort of social science and see what actual cultural effect this has when you self-moderate versus have the site be able to pick what kind of conversations you can have?
So the question is, as we get more and more data, are we interested in doing more social science with the information? And absolutely, I mean, we have academics like pounding down our door. I mean, nobody else has collected this type of data at this volume before. You know, every single piece of comment has multiple pieces of qualitative data attached to it. What we're doing is essentially, now that we've got this baseline of moderation built in, now we're taking a pass at we're calling it CivilBot, which is an automatic community moderation system that's based on the data that we're getting. So with a system like this, you cut way down on just that initial level of spam and abuse, but there's still the occasional bad actor, you know, the person who votes yes every time, or the person who always, you know, they figure it out that they can, you know, vote against their enemies or whatever. They're few and far between, and we can clearly see them in the data, because that's the thing, is that we have so much information about people's behavior when you use a system like this, that it's very easy for the system to identify the bad actors. And so now what we're doing is we're introducing this friendly little bot that comes in and lets them know, hey, you know, Joe Schmo, we noticed that your voting score is dropping below the threshold that's required for participation. If you can't start voting fairly and accurately, then I'm afraid we're going to have to start restricting your account automatically without anybody having to go in and push a button. So that's the type of social stuff that we're doing right now, is figuring out how we can better use the data to build a more effective, like, hands-free moderation platform. Sorry, right behind you, sorry.
Do you weigh the input from people?
So do we weight the input? Absolutely, yeah. You know, we very much have a credibility model in the system. Your credibility as a commenter, as a voter, and as a flagger of comments is constantly being measured and scored on your account. And so if you're a credible user, then yeah, your votes carry more weight. If you're not a credible user, then you experience a much more limited ability to participate and to vote on other people's comments. So there was a question right in front of you.
If you get enough structured data for machine learning, do you think you can teach a machine what civility is?
Can we teach a machine what civility is? If we can do that, I think that we're a very long way from machines being able to comprehend the meaning of free-form text. But I know that machines are already very good at identifying patterns in user behavior and the types of binary decisions that we're asking people to make. And I think that's really where we're going to start layering in more. We're going to go back to looking at like classifiers and more complex algorithmic solutions, but very much based on the credibility models and the behavioral analysis, and not on trying to understand the content of what people are writing. So,
Have you come across limits or thresholds to throughput, like massive amounts of comments on, say, a viral video or something like that, where especially if there's a lot of controversy around it?
Yeah. So have we hit limits or throttle or bottlenecks? This is what we're doing once. We did it first, and then we hired a new VP of engineering. And since then, he was at Twitter in the early days, so he says this is easy. We're now fully scalable, and the great thing about the way that it's designed is really the more comments come in, the more moderation you get. So I mean, really, this is the only way to moderate comments at high volumes. As an example, we're on the daily paper up in Anchorage, Alaska, which has an awesome culture. And a couple weeks ago, there was a viral story. I won't go into it, but it was sad. And it's the kind of story that would normally get just a terrible, terrible comment section, right? And with us, they got, I think they got 800 or 900 comments on that one article. And instead of it being an all hands on deck, 5-alarm fire for their staff, which is what would normally happen on an article like this, instead it actually got easier to manage, because so many new people came in and so many different people came in that that handful of bad actors that we're dealing with right now with the CivilBot, they were silenced, because there were so many people participating that the system worked even better. So the amount of moderation that needed to happen on the staff side completely dropped as the comments went up for this fire. And if anybody here has had to moderate comments before, you know how magical that was to watch on our end. Any other questions? I keep missing the
Yeah,
yes.
well, devil's advocate, I'm thinking of if you sold the software to, say, North Korea or Azerbaijan or even China, could they modify it so that civility meant we only worship our leader and any other comment is uncivil?
So the question is, if we were working with a country like China, would they be able to modify it? So one of the interesting things, if anybody saw Tay, the AI experiment that IBM posted on Twitter. So what's interesting is the reason that was such a disaster in the United States was that they had run it in China for 6 months and never saw a problem. Trolling is not an issue in China. Nobody does it. They have other issues. But this weird type of sort of public thing that we do here is very much a Western thing. So yay, us.